Michael Swickert here. Welcome to Enchanting People of New Mexico, sponsored by the Fresh Chili Company in Las Cruces, New Mexico. Our award-winning Hatch green and red chili is from locally owned farms in Hatch, New Mexico, which you know is the chili capital of the world. Hit subscribe to automatically get these podcasts every Monday and Friday. We have regular historical and cultural podcasts about New Mexico. Wednesdays, like today, we celebrate people important to our area. One of the most interesting people of New Mexico is Clyde Tombaugh, who during his lifetime was usually introduced as the discoverer of the ninth planet in our solar system, Pluto. Not that you and I will spend much time looking up in the sky. Oh, there's Pluto, or is it? No, Pluto is about 3 billion miles away from the sun, so even with the most powerful telescopes, it's not easily seen. Now, this story about Clyde Tombaugh is partially personal, since I took an astronomy class from Clyde Tombaugh in 1972, and I interviewed him a number of times between 1985 and 1987 for a historical project I was doing. He was a delight as a professor and very kind with his time and observations about history. More about that in a minute. Let's do a little background. Clyde William Tombaugh was born in 1906 in Kansas. He was always interested in telescopes and the sky above. He wanted to go to college, but his farm parents had a bad moment when a robust hailstorm destroyed all of their crops one year, so there wasn't the money to do so, and he had 5 siblings. But again, he was fascinated by telescopes, so he scrounged parts from the farm, and he ground lenses to make 2 telescopes. The first one was a learning failure, not bad, because that's how you learn, and the second was useful. With it, he made detailed sketches of Mars, which he sent in 1928 to the Lowell Observatory outside Flagstaff, Arizona, and they were quite impressed by his meticulous detail. Percival Lowell was an author, a mathematician, and an astronomer who first wrote about the canals on Mars and then proclaimed that there was a 9th planet in our solar system, which was affecting the orbits of Neptune and Uranus. He found the money to start the Lowell Observatory in 1915, but died the next year. Now, the truth is that the planet Pluto is too small to have had any of these measurable effects on other planets, but the hunt was on, and it was a brute force way of finding Planet X, as it was known before discovery. Clyde Tombaugh was a very hard and diligent worker. And again, he was hired by the Lowell Observatory because they liked how he did work. Now, in the winter, when the air was dry, was the best time to take pictures, especially if there was no clouds. He would photograph with a very large format camera sections of the sky. He did so in the very cold observatory since they couldn't turn the heat on while he was photographing the sky. They already had decided that Planet X might be where Lowell thought it was, so they were searching a vast area near that section of the sky, looking for Planet X, the 9th planet in our solar system. A group of researchers over the years had decided if there was a planet out there, then in a 1-week period of time, it would move a very specific amount on a negative, so that taking a shot of the sky a week apart and putting the 2 negatives, very large negatives, into a machine they called the blink comparer would allow for the measurement of exactly the certain distance if it was a planet that it thought to be. It was going to move a certain amount. That's what they were thinking. So thousands upon thousands of dots on these negatives each day were put through the blink comparer, and Clyde Tombaugh systematically looked for a dot that moved an exact amount. He had to systematically look at each dot, find the dot on the other negative that was taken a week later or earlier, and measure to see if and how much it moved in a week's time. If it moved too little or too much, it certainly wasn't Planet X. Tombaugh started using the Lowell Observatory's 13-inch telescope on April 6, 1929. He took photographs of the same section of the sky a week apart, and then using this machine, he could see if there was a shift of each dot over a week. Most, if not all, did not shift, or some shifted wildly. He was looking for just the exact amount of movement. He spent hours upon hours looking at the thousands upon thousands of dots in each large negative. It took a huge amount of time and concentration to go dot by dot by dot, day in and day out, while at night in the freezing weather he took the large plate negatives, developed each shot, and then lined up the pairs of negatives to be measured. Then on February 18, 1930, as Clyde Tombaugh was diligently working on the dots, it happened. On 2 shots from the previous month, one of the dots was exactly the right distance a week later, so it had to be Planet X. After an exhaustive checking of the dots and numbers, it was finally decided by the staff of the observatory that Planet X had been found, but until the staff really looked carefully, they would not say a word to anyone. But the confirmatory photographs and data was found, and on March 13, 1930, the observatory telegraphed the Harvard College Observatory with the news that Planet X had been found, and that was released worldwide. Now, they couldn't just call it Planet X, so a name had to come about. Since Percival Lowell was instrumental in this find, they wanted to use the P and the L. So very quickly, the name Pluto was selected since it was the Roman god of the underworld, and then they get to use the P and L as a tribute to Percival Lowell. Michael Swickard here, Enchanting People of New Mexico. Each Wednesday we do a podcast on people who are special to New Mexico. Hit subscribe to automatically get these podcasts. We're talking about Clyde Tombaugh, who by hour and hour of work discovered the planet X. He told me an interesting story when I was interviewing him. He wrote an essay in the 1950s, and I believe it was in Mercury magazine. It seemed from the data that the astronomers had, Pluto was large, really large. Perhaps it was twice as big as Jupiter, which until then was the largest of the 8 planets. Then a year later, after a lot more observations, the astronomers decided, Pluto's a little smaller. Maybe it's the same size as Jupiter. A couple of years later, you can see this coming, can't you? They thought, about half the size of Jupiter. And then down and down in size it went until the early 50s when he was writing this article in Mercury magazine. It was smaller than Earth. Tombaugh, with his very robust humor, wrote that using mathematics and linear regressions, he realized that Pluto in the year 1978 was, since it was getting smaller, so in 1978 it wasn't going to weigh anything. Very funny there. Tombaugh worked at the observatory looking for the 10th planet, but one was never found. However, he found many small objects and about 800 asteroids. Now, Tombaugh worked at the observatory until he was drafted for World War II, where he taught naval navigation at Northern Arizona University. After the war ended, he was not able to return to the Lowell Observatory due to the observatory not having funding. So he went to work at White Sands Missile Range near Las Cruces. Then he also ended up teaching astronomy. Well, I believe he kind of started the astronomy department at New Mexico State University, inspired a number of very important astronomers there at NMSU. He retired from teaching in 1973, just after I had him for an astronomy class, and remained very active in astronomy while living in Las Cruces until his death in 1997 at age 90. He was almost about to turn 91. Now, there's a Tombaugh Elementary School near where Clyde Tombaugh lived in Mesilla Park. It's my understanding that a student was introduced to Clyde Tombaugh. He looked up at him and said, "Why were you named after our school?" That made Clyde laugh. He was quite a punster and really enjoyed humor. I always smile when I remembered when I took a class, Astronomy 110, from Professor Tombaugh, and we students were sitting in the class. It was kind of a large lecture class, and we were waiting for this giant of the astronomy world. None of us had ever actually even seen him. He came in, walked to the lectern. He said, "This is Astronomy 110. I'm Clyde Tombaugh." Then he paused, and our pens were on our paper since it seems he was going to say something important. He said, "The first thing," then he paused while we wrote that down, "that you must do," another pause, "is never try to stargaze," another pause, "under a streetlight." We all looked up, and he smiled and laughed and said, "Relax. Well, let's have some fun with astronomy." And that was it woke us right up. And I have had lots of fun with astronomy, especially when I interviewed Clyde Tombaugh, and he always had interesting things to say. He explained that Pluto the planet and Pluto, Mickey Mouse's dog, were connected because in 1930 Walt Disney wanted to celebrate finding Planet X. So Pluto the dog was introduced. Now in 1941, the newly created element plutonium was named after Pluto, as was the tradition of naming elements after discovered planets. That's where we got uranium. Now, Pluto was demoted from a major one of the 9 planets to less than a major planet. It happened after Clyde Tombaugh had passed, but I feel confident he would not have been anywhere as upset as some Las Cruces residents at the change, which was made in 2006. I shrugged and finally remembered the effect Clyde Tombaugh had on the astronomy world, especially later in life. I am thankful that I got to sit with him a number of times and enjoy his sense of astronomy. He was a very enchanting person in our area, and I feel blessed that he came here to our little slice of paradise. Let me speak of something from our sponsor, the Fresh Chili Company of Las Cruces. The 2023 Big Jim Hatch Green Chili Special Reserve Veritol is here and in the store. Veritol means that this product will only be made with Big Jim chili, which was roasted last week, I know. Now, Big Jim is sweet and has a medium heat level. There's also Sandia Select that was roasted the week before, a bit hotter, which to me is about as hot as these days have been. Just right for some people, myself included. I love Sandia Select on enchiladas. We also have 2 new products, Hatch 575 Green Chili and Hatch 575 Red Chili. The Hatch 575 Green Chili is bold in flavor, made with delicious Hatch green chili. This thick sauce will take you on a trip on the trail of the Southwest. It's perfect for burritos, chili con carne, and homemade stews. The Hatch 575 Red Chili is bold, made with Hatch red chili. This traditional sauce takes you back to your grandmother's homemade recipes. It's perfect for enchiladas, chili con carne, and of course it's great on your favorite tacos. Now I want to tell you about something just now on the shelves of the Fresh Chili Company. It's Hatch Sweet Onion Dressing. Everyone knows the Hatch Valley is renowned for chili since it's the chili capital of the world. Well, onions from the Hatch Valley and surrounding fields are some of the sweetest sweet onions, meaning they're less pungent. This Hatch Sweet Onion Dressing combines those Hatch sweet onions with avocado oil and our very own green chili Dijon mustard to create a dressing that's so good. How good, Michael? It's so good you can marinate and baste with it as long, and also douse your salads and fruit with it. It is ever so much a taste sensation, and I have to tell you, I really love this sweet onion dressing. Now, one thing happens when people live in Las Cruces and happen to be in our little slice of paradise. If they come here, they can go by the Fresh Chili Gift Shop at 1160 El Paseo Road, Suite D7. It's open Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. There's some new products they may want to look at, like there's a local honey with Hatch red chili, kind of a hot honey, great on biscuits. French fries are ever so much better with Fresh Chili Company's Hatchup. That's ketchup with Hatch red chili. Come browse and see all these surprises again Monday through Saturday. The Fresh Chili Company gift shop, 1160 El Paseo Road, Suite D7A. And that's from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Saturday. Michael Swickert here. This is Enchanting People of New Mexico. Thank you for your time today. We'll always have lots of news and stories about New Mexico for you on these podcasts. If you have something you want me to talk about in a future podcast, write to Michael at freshchilico.com. That's Michael at freshchilico.com. And especially if you have someone you'd like me to talk about, write to me, and we will talk about them. Talk about people on Wednesdays. Have a great rest of your day. Oh, yes, and eat plenty of that good Hatch Valley chili. Like I always say, some chili is good, more is better. Bye for now.